and it's all yours, Shelley. So take it away.
Thank you, Marilyn. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see those I can see and the names I can't see. Welcome. Anyway, yes, Sworn Virgin. Sworn Virgin, it is from 2015. It is from Italy, although it begins in Albania. The director's name is Laura Bispori, and she is an Italian director, and this was her debut film, which is quite interesting to remark on. It was her first film, and she has since made two more. But this film won a special award at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2016. It was the Nora Ephron Prize, which is awarded every year. And it's why they awarded the film, which begins to explain it a little bit more. We are awarding a film that is exquisite in its broadness and its intimacy, with a truly original story that touches on oppression in a way that members of this jury have rarely seen before. The film constantly surprised us and made us question our own positions throughout a confident, passionate, and beautifully nuanced vision that showed a real respect for the audience. The film is an exploration of sexual identity told through a metaphor of the relationship between female freedom and the world. Shot in the mountains of northern Albania, which, by the way, are called the Mountains of the Damned, hard and mysterious. Now, this film is based on a lot of truth. It's based on the situation that exists in this part of the world. Laura Bispori went there, lived there among these people and among these sworn virgins. There are several of them. And it's under what is called canon, which you hear in the film, canon law, which reigns in these isolated villages where she comes from, and then she moves on to Milan. A real sworn virgin appears twice in the film. There is a real one that you see. Her name is Pal. If you remember the character called Pal, she sees her in the village, she passes her, she sees her, and she passes her house. She walks past her house at one point. Pal is an actual sworn virgin. And sworn virgin is the story of a woman who sacrifices her femininity for her freedom, and years later must renounce her oath of honor to become a woman again in her own eyes. It is a journey inside the complexity of a woman's world, a film about finally breaking free from an invisible prison, or invisible prisons as she saw it. Sworn virgins are beings that in the name of freedom make a choice which in fact binds them. Such a starting point is an invitation to a big reflection on femininity with reference to identity and freedom, a reflection which moves from the archaic to a contemporary level, moves from the archaic traditional that's been going on for God knows how long in those mountains to a contemporary vision by the end. She said, Laura Bispori said, I think that we should all ask ourselves, are women really so free today? This was the question she asks. Sworn virgins are called Bernesha. The right for a woman to declare herself a man, to behave like a man, and gain all the rights that this canon law reserves exclusively for men is recognized. There is evidence that this phenomenon has been going on for at least 200 years. There are still a few cases today, as you saw in the film, approximately 100 cases in Kosovo and areas near the Albanian border. This phenomenon was previously also present in Serbia, Montenegro, and Bosnia. So it exists primarily in the Baltic areas. It is assumed that the woman is a virgin who declares this, and consequently, the conversion can only occur on reaching sexual maturity. Total abstinence from sexual life is demanded, total abstinence. The reason why these women, these Bernesh, are also known as sworn virgins, what they call virginat ebitume. They are women who dress like men, as men's clothing is seen as an element that legitimizes the conversion oath. Traditionally, a ceremony, as you saw in the film, before 12 men of the village. After the oath, the virgin takes on everyday male behavior. She takes a man's name. She is allowed to carry a weapon. No women are allowed to carry weapons except the Bernesh. She can smoke. She can drink with men in rooms where women are not permitted. They also acquire the right to sell, buy, and manage property, and can even take part in war or vendettas between clans. They have equal rights to men, but they can never marry or have relationships with anyone of either sex. The canon is the most important set of traditional Albanian tribal law, as I said, for centuries, that has regulated social life in Albania, especially in the remote northern areas and into Kosovo, Macedonia, and Montenegro. The code deals with both civil and criminal law, regulating various aspects of life: family, marriage, contracts, work, property, crimes against honor, and compensation for damages. Giving one's word, blood feud, and absolute loyalty between family members, characterized in Albanian as a man of honor. When it comes to honor, the canon is categorical. In the eyes of the law, a dishonored man is considered dead. Additionally, blood cannot be paid for with a fine, and honor is not restored, not even by monetary compensation. Furthermore, a dishonored man does not appeal for justice, and the valiant take justice into their own hands. This is a very primitive society in terms of how we look at it. And it is portrayed in the film. The sense of family is very strong among these people. It's a patriarchal type family system, as you can imagine, based on the clan, an extended family with the eldest male as the head. Traditionally, the life of a woman is severely conditioned by male figures. The canon refers to women as a sack made to endure weight and work. If you remember, when she's coming down the mountain, she passes women off the boat, women who are carrying sacks. It is that metaphor, that visual metaphor for what she read in their laws: a sack made to endure weight and work. Women have minimal decisional power. They cannot own property, and they are not included in these blood feuds. The film itself has a non-linear, a fragmented structure. As you saw, we delve into her past, we delve into present day. It interweaves three periods in her life: the present, the past as children, and the past at around age 20. Interested in how escape from one form of repression seamlessly flows into another, as Hana, now in her late 20s, begins to have doubts about her choice, heading down to the alien territory of Milan and her sister Lila in a bid to find an identity she wants purely for herself. Mark travels to Italy, crossing borders into many different worlds, from Albania through down the mountains to Italy, from past to present, from feminine to masculine and back to feminine. That is her journey. And as she travels down, we see those women I said along the way who are burdened with carrying their weight, treated not as equals, but must quietly bear their destinies. We are thrust into a mystery at the beginning of the film. We see what looks like three men wrestling a ram, if you remember. As we move in closer, we are faced with the ambiguity as who this is, wrestling with this ram. We sense that this is a woman, but who is she? We see an isolated world up in the Albanian mountains. We see who looks like a man pass by, Pal. Later, we see him again and learn that she too is a sworn virgin. Then we see who we come to know as Mark make a decision to leave this place, going to Milan and reuniting with Leela after 14 years apart. Slowly through flashback, we begin to piece together Mark Hana's life, how she was saved by Leela's father and would be adopted into their family as Leela's sister, and how they would start out as all young girls playing together and swearing they would always be together. But as they reach puberty and are given rules which women must live by, even witnessing a bridal procession with the bride's head covered, so she would not be able to find her way back home. Hana wants something more, and her adopted father begins to realize it. He initiates her on the path to becoming a sworn virgin. He sees it when she fires the gun, her fascination with the rifle. He sees her, he looks at her. But with Leela and eventually Jonita, her niece, Leela's daughter, she begins to rediscover her femininity when she travels to Milan. It is interesting to watch the synchronized swimmers and the young girls that Jonita is involved with. And for Hana, it is a girlhood she missed. As she stares at them, she realizes it is, in a sense, it is a girlhood she never knew, because that wouldn't exist in those mountains. And her relationship to Bernard, the pool attendant, at first it seems ambiguous, until finally Hana realizes her sexuality with him. She finds herself in the midst of, he is curious. Who is this person? He doesn't know, and then realizes she's a woman. She finds herself in the midst of caring, loving people life had taken away from her, and opens up to an unexpected chance of love, which the Kunin had denied her. Mark rediscovers Hana, finally piecing back together the two souls that for years have lived inside her body. She is reborn a new, free, and complete person. But we see that transition begin in the mountains. When she's lying there alone, she begins to experience her own sexuality. She begins to feel different. It is that stirring which forces her to make this journey and realize that this is not what she wants anymore. As I said, she's reborn a new, free, and complete person. And in the end, when Leela reads the letter from her mother, that they were born upside down, the connection between them is reestablished. And as they sing together, there is hope in her future. There is hope in her future. The notion of a frozen body, Laura Pispiori, the director, sees Mark Hana as a body that is neither male nor female, or maybe is both. The Italian journey is a progressive, as she calls it, defrosting of a body. It is the defrosting of a body, is the way she explains it. Very poetic explanation. Hana's present-day journey is braided with flashbacks to the sisters' unhappy adolescence in the village. It sheds light on the oppressive circumstances that drove each young woman to an alternate identity of sorts. It's an elegant device, filmically, tracing the building and gradual dismantling of Hana's masculine alter ego into parallel to how she became Mark. We see how she became Mark. Mark slowly frees herself through searching, exploring, experimenting, and closing up again. The cinematography is shot mostly from Mark Hana's point of view. I use both names because we've seen her as both names. Long takes are used in the film. Fixed camera positions. The camera doesn't move. We are observers. Contrast the cool blues of Albania. If you notice the change in color, in Albania, it's cold. It's more bluish. And as we get into Italy, into Milan, it's a much warmer glow within the apartment and everything else. We see that scene with Leela's husband, how he reacts to her. He knows who she is. He knows who she was. He knows who she was, and he drinks with her. And he does not sure. There is an ambiguity between the two of them. Is who is this person? And he comes to know her, much as Jonita will discover her. Her niece will discover her. There's that scene where the girls are running through the hallway, and we see them, and she sees them, and it's eye-opening for her. She sees girls being girls. When she was that age, she had no idea that this world could be there like that. And had she wouldn't have become Mark, probably. Anyway, Laura Bispori talks about that final scene, and she said that she could have put Hana wearing high heels or a skirt, but it would have looked fake. She felt it would have looked fake at that point. I would have had the feeling of betraying Mark. She said, I would have felt I was betraying my character. I wanted to still recognize Mark, but also see some discrete physical traces of the profound journey that Hana has made. Alba Warwacker is a stage and screen actress. I've been following her career for many, many years. She is one of Italy's foremost actresses today. She also acts internationally. I've seen her in French film as well as English-speaking film. She speaks English very well. Her sister is a director, has directed her sister in a number of films that are award-winning international films that have won awards around the world. I mean, her sister has become just an amazing director. In fact, this past year, she had a film which won at Venice. It's called La Camera, and it is partly a comedy and a drama, wonderful film. Anyway, this film was recognized at the Berlin Film Festival, and I thought she did a tremendous job in her part here. And she also acted in Laura Bispori's following film, which was called Daughter of Mine. And she plays a totally opposite character. She plays a woman, a loose woman, who has born a child and really didn't want to raise it and gave it to another woman to raise. And now that child wants to know its mother. And it's interesting what takes place during that film. And she is absolutely wonderful in the film. So I highly recommend it. I think it may be on Canopy, and it's called Mother of Mine. Okay, and that is basically, you got an explanation as to who these people are, who he is. And it's not a he, it's who she is, what she, how she transforms in two ways. This, as Laura Bispori calls it, a frozen body. It's almost like she became a chrysalis when she became Mark, and now she's about to become a butterfly again. We see the advent of her womanhood at the beginning of at the end of the film. And I think it was an important transformation. It's also a film that contrasts this traditional society with modernity. I mean, the way Mark leaves the society and becomes Hana, Leela left the society as a woman. She left it entirely as a woman and went to Milan. She never changed. So we get that contrast and we get that understanding between the two of them. You know, she does question her, and we see her development, you know, when she's learning to be a woman and finally gets her own apartment. I thought was wonderful. I thought those scenes were wonderful. You know, she's writing things down, she's learning. You know, she desperately wants to become part of this modern world. And I thought it was wonderful to see. But it's also a reminder that this exists. That's, I think, one of the most interesting parts of the film, or that this society actually exists in this way, in this world. You know, and it sort of does ask, you know, look what women are fighting for today in this society, and look at that society. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible that these fights take place in either place. So now I want to open it up to all you confused people, or those of you who are confused, or those of you who maybe are not as confused as you were before, hopefully, and hear what you have to say. So who wants to dig in first? Who has any comments? Feel free. Don't be afraid. There are no stupid questions, no stupid comments. Believe me, you're dealing with a territory that's unknown to all of us. Okay, Jackie.
Well, it's not Jackie
Oh,
tonight.
Larry. Well, I don't know. Is it Larry or Jackie? Go ahead, Larry.
So I was surprised that this system actually is there, because Albania being almost exclusively Muslim, and what's not Muslim is Orthodox Greek or Catholic, that they would have, you know, at any means had this type of event, you know, the sworn virgin and this, you know, I won't say a sex change, but this ignoring the sex, whatever you want to call it. It just seems like there's such strong religions there that would have never come through in this country.
Yeah, it's you got to remember, this is all the way up in the mountains, as they call it. It's the mountains of the damned. It is these are isolated communities, and yet, as well as that, you know, even in Albania, down in below the mountains, in the land itself, blood feud. Even, you know, as through the 20th century, blood feuds was still prevalent in Albania. If you felt if somebody killed a member of a family, then the other family will eventually, a member will be killed, is designated to be killed. There is a lot of strange traditions in this country. Now, Albania was isolated for a long time from the world. I mean, you couldn't go to Albania. You know, it was part of the Soviet Union at one point, and it was isolated. And but the mountain people are totally isolated. You know, we get no real sense of religion. I mean, we see the wedding, we see them, but they live by a different law. Those laws are established in the mountains, and nobody goes up there to administer them according to the government down below. But that's what's interesting about it, is that these things exist. It is hard to believe, and she discovered it, and she read about it, and then she went there and saw it and said, this has got to be a film. I mean, it's funny you say that, because the film itself at the beginning it has a sense of a documentary. You feel like you're looking at a documentary in terms of, you know, what's going on here. Who are these people? What are they doing? And then we realize it is a narrative feature, you know, because essentially you feel the reality of the film. But yes, it's a very real situation that defies belief in many cases.
And I thought, to add my 2 cents to that, Larry and I've talked, well, we've talked about this a lot, is that I thought what it showed is they had a code of their own. And I think if you really and truly looked at a lot of religions, there's what they're supposed to do and what is supposed to happen and what does happen. And I thought it was really interesting that the men of the village, even though we all would disagree with that and we think it's very harsh, there's a way around virtually everything. And I thought it was really interesting that all of them agreed to that. Once she swore to be a virgin, they all were fine with it. And I thought that was really pretty cool, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, it's and this is not it's not a situation that has to do with being gay. It's not about being gay. It's not about or even gender preference. I mean, she is a woman. She's just forsaking wanting to live like the other women. That's really what it's about. She wants the privilege of being able to do these other things, but that's the irony and the paradox of the film itself, of this tribe, is the fact that, okay, you're a woman, but if you adhere to the code and you take the oath, yes, you can live as a man, but you're still a woman. I mean, she's not saying I want to be a man and I want to, be with men for a sexual reason. It's just she wants to be able to do the things she wants to do. And that's, so, and then they're accepting her because she's given up everything. She's sort of, non-gender. Which is what Pal is. When you see Pal, you, for all intents and purposes, you think it's a man walking by the house. And then as I learned after seeing the film and doing the research, that Pal is a sworn virgin, and still lives in that village, as far as I know. So I thought that was very interesting. And as far as I know, Jackie, I don't think they saw the movie up there. I don't think they had a screening of it, as far as I know. Fern.
Yeah, two questions, Shelley, two comments. The water elements, both the sea and the pool. It's almost like, was it a cleansing element? I'm trying to figure it out. I have racked something myself. The sea is the opening and the transformation and going to Italy. And then there's the water element of the pool. Can you help me out with that?
Well, it's interesting. Well, there's a couple of things with that. I mean, yes, she has to take the river down. But it's funny because she's ascending to becoming a woman, but descending from the mountains. I mean, there's a contrast here. Her ascension is in descending, and coming down into the world, from up there. But yes, the pool, the water, the idea of what Janita does, is, it does represent a sense of life. It's a life that she had forsaken because she sees the girls swimming. She sees, she's looking at this pool. She's fascinated by it. And yes, it's again a baptismal situation for her, in a sense. She's coming into a whole new world. And yes, water would represent that life force for her.
All right, that helps. Thank you.
Okay, great. Barbara.
You were discussing religion, and there was not that kind of gender, role playing. But God knows that Catholics practically invented celibacy.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
Nuns, priests, they all they swore to celibacy. Not that it was entirely successful, but that's their thing. Albania is apparently declared an atheist country. It was declared an atheist country in, I don't know, 1967 or something.
Yeah, it was under communism. I mean, it was part of the Soviet Union. It was a closed society. It was basically a mysterious society. Nobody knew what was going on there. I mean, nothing was coming out of there. Nothing was going in there for a long time. It was ruled by a dictator. But we really don't see any religion, so to speak. It's tribal. What we're seeing is very tribal. The wedding itself.
it was confusing to catch on to it because right in the beginning, the young Mark looked very much like a woman.
Yes.
And I was thinking, well, and they kept calling him Mark. I'm thinking, God, this is, what is it?
Yeah.
Took a while. Then I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I had to do some research.
Well, I think, and I think it's interesting, you say that because a lot of people would see it and say, okay, what is she? Is she, does she want to become a man? Does she want to do gender? Is it a gender
Mhm.
thing, or is she gay?
Mhm.
And you have to throw all of those definitions out in terms of this film, in terms of what you're seeing here. It has nothing to do with that. I mean, they wouldn't even know what that's all about in this place.
Right,
Uh,
right. Can you
so
imagine?
so that to me is one of the interesting aspects of the film that should affect us from understanding the difference between definitions and who human beings are and what human beings are capable of, and how they define themselves, because this is a person who defined herself in several ways, and finally discovers who she is by the end of the film. She has come to discover who she is, which I think is a wonderful, is a way it should end. Well, it doesn't end. I mean, it ends in
Yeah.
this again, this ambiguity of, okay, what's going to happen next? But that's another story. So thank you, Barbara. Rachel?
I found it very interesting because, where I thought it was going was not where it was going. And
Good.
it was a little slow for me at the beginning. And then I'm going, what's going on here? And I could see that she really, I don't know if she wanted his approval. Part of me felt like when the guns, that she wanted his approval. And one of the ways that she could get him to be out of his stoic mind and crack a little bit of a smile is when she shot the gun. And so she could partake in it. So she thought that was a way to get in with him. And I don't think she, in her head, maybe thought male or female. She just wanted to be connected, to have a connection with him.
Yeah,
And
well, yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
And the other thing I thought was very interesting is when they did the swimming sequence, initially, it was all underwater.
Water.
And afterwards, as she became into herself, I'm going, why are they only filming under the water and not filming on top? And I think it was symbolic. Towards the end, you see her blossoming and you see what happens above water instead of underneath water. Because
That's a great comment. Yeah,
she didn't know her identity. She was trying to figure it out, who she is and who she wants to be. And she has the freedom to choose now.
Yeah, well, yes, she does. I mean, and it is based on her sister. I mean, we call her sister because her parents adopted her at the beginning of the film. And remember, she was a young girl when her adopted father sees all of this happening. She's a young girl. She's basically like a tomboy. But he's also discovering that she's different. She wants different things, and it would be put to a stop because it's a female, but yet she strongly wants to follow her own way, and again is permitted to by taking the oath. Susan Hurst.
There. That swimming fascinated me too, because I was a synchronized swimming. I was a member of the synchronized swimming team in college. And so I knew how to do all that stuff. It's a lot of holding your breath underwater. But when the first scene they showed was the girl's legs under there for so ungainly and so awkward and looking so funny. I said, what are they doing? And then at the very end, they showed the graceful, beautiful up the part that was above water. And the part about the rules between men and women, when the sisters were sitting there with their mom, the mother starts reciting all the rules about women shall not talk if a man speaking,
Right.
women have to serve the men and they can't, all that stuff. I said, they have to do it that way for us to understand how repressive this culture really is. They couldn't have showed that in the movie. I don't think it would have taken hours, but just reciting all those rules made it pretty clear.
That's exactly right. This is the kind of things the last comments, all the comments I've heard, this is exactly what I see, because you've watched the movie, you've seen the movie, and I want to hear your impressions. And that's, you're right. And that's a filmmaking technique, a way of getting all of that out without having to see it, and also, again, the whole idea, what Rachel was saying, what you were saying, is synchronized swimming is synchronizing. She is synchronizing at the end. She is synchronizing with society. She's synchronizing with herself. She's coming into synchronicity, if you will. And that's, these are all metaphors. They're all wonderful visual metaphors for telling the story. So terrific. Thank you. Thank you. Who's next? Yes, Marilyn, I see your hand. Go ahead. Wait, you got to unmute. You have to unmute. There you go.
Yeah. I saw the water scene as being rebirth. I think that's what water symbolizes. And also, in terms of the celibacy, I think the difference between a nun as what she was, the nun remains a woman. And this was a total change. She wanted to be powerful man. And of course, she changed her mind. I thought it was a wonderful film. It was confusing at the beginning, and it just developed so well. I don't understand how the cameramen get up the mountains. I never understand.
It's not easy. I will tell you that it's not easy. They could either helicopter it up. They manage. You'd be very surprised. I mean, when Francis Ford Coppola made The Godfather, they had a ton of equipment. They had to get up in the mountain where they shoot the wedding scene in the first Godfather with Al Pacino, and they crane it up. They drive it up. They any way they can get it up there, they'll get it up there. It's not easy. It's not. But in this case, it's mostly outdoor. It's mostly a lot of it is handheld camera. So they probably didn't have that much. It looked like a lot of natural lighting. So they didn't have to worry too much about that. So they probably did not have that much equipment that they had to schlep around. So good question, though. Good question. Marilyn.
I thought it was very, very interesting. I certainly learned something that I didn't know before. I thought the cinematography was beautiful and very little dialogue, which we say very often, that we don't need the words, but we get the message. And in this one, there really was not a lot of dialogue and probably not necessary. A little bit of research that I did said there are very, very few sworn virgins still. And this is probably going to be wonderful down the road when there aren't any more left.
Yes.
Now, if I could read my writing, my writing is the worst, I can't even read it myself. But I think they said a dozen, like very.
Well, there were in terms of that society in the Albanian mountains, in the mountains of the damned, is that there were about 4 or 5 that she encountered. There were about 4 or 5 she encountered. But in research, they said that throughout the Baltic states, there were probably 100 of them. Now, whether some of them had already converted away from being sworn virgins, I don't know. Also, nobody commented the fact is she lost her virginity in the film. And that's interesting
Thank
too,
Yeah.
is because that's in essence a rite of passage to becoming a woman. And for her anyway, and I think that was important in the film. So it's we get all of these things happening. And as you said, no, dialogue isn't required. You know, as I often say, sometimes, you know, dialogue is the enemy of cinema. We have to watch the images. We have to see what a story is telling us. And in this case, the visuals told us a lot. Visuals told us a lot. Thank you, Marilyn. Who else? Linda. You got to unmute, Linda.
Unmute.
Yeah, she is.
It wouldn't give me the button, but it finally did. I thought
Good.
it was a fascinating concept. I did go with that. And then when I would analyze each scene like we've done tonight, you know, I would understand what they were showing us and everything. And I would agree that the scenes were good and it presented, but it just didn't do anything for me. It didn't move me at all. These people were the most stoic people. There was just like so little emotion. You know, so I felt emotion when they read all those rules for the girls. That generated a little thing for me there. And then I felt that the only thing that seemed to be bothering her all that much about, you know, living as a man was having to bind her breast. You know, they spent quite a bit of time showing you the like, you know, the rash and the thing. But I didn't feel any other like psychological problems for her. And nobody seemed to show any emotion except the daughter, you know, and she was at least curious, you know, she wanted to know, but it was just like, so I would have loved it as a book, you know, when I could have put my emotion on it, but I just wanted these people to show a little something. So it didn't move me. So I couldn't get into her plight or anything. So it kind of left me cold. So that was I must be the only one because everyone else was fine. But I would agree with what all the other things that were said, that these, you know, different scenes, you know, would lead us through and all. But why was it done so? Is that an Albanian thing, or is it just in the time that everybody, you know?
Well, I couldn't tell you, not ever being there. I mean, I've been visiting this place. I couldn't tell you that, but it's an interesting comment because, you know, I think you got to remember, this is a very repressive tribal society, and these people, you know, they don't want to hear from women. They don't want any back talk.
No, but even when she got to her sister's house in the modern world, everything was still so, you know, just
except for the niece. And I think that's important, but that's important.
And I'm such an emotional person. I just have a harder time when people don't show any emotion whatsoever.
I can understand that. I think most of us can understand it, but I think that's
why I got bored for that reason. But I could have read that. I could have read that book. You know, there was no book, though. I guess it was just a screenplay. But when you could, you know, didn't have to just see everybody. So, you know, like no one gave a damn, you know, it just kind of like.
Well, you got that when in the niece, okay, and I think that was important as contrast in the film to show this girl is being raised in a modern society. She can talk back. She can behave like a young girl. She can do these things. And it's to demonstrate for us that difference. So your questioning is, why are these people behaving this way? They're not showing any emotion. They don't show anything. Yet here's this young girl that is. And it helps us understand who Hana is and where Hana's coming from.
Or Mark should have been feeling some sort of too. She didn't show much of her
well, the men are stoic
at that
because the men in the mountains are stoic.
She had fully converted to that stoicism then.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what she wanted because she couldn't show any emotion as a woman. If she did, they would have thrown it down the mountain.
But then, and so even when she started to want to be different, she couldn't shed that then, I guess.
No, she just had to leave. I mean, she just
but I'm talking about when she's already there and she's going through her.
Oh, well, I think I think she's, she's a stranger in a strange land. She is now, she is still this virgin in a sense, now a virgin in another society that she's got to learn to navigate. She had no idea how to navigate that. I mean, she comes down and there are real bathrooms. There are real, I mean, this is a real, this is a totally new world.
Well, maybe they played it that way because they're trying to show her that she didn't just shut down and just go to a different sex, but she just shut down her whole personality and, emotions then. So if that was the reason to play it so stoic, then I could see. How that.
I think it's definitely one of the reasons. I think it's also the fact that she's quiet because I don't know where I am. I don't know where, she's learning. It's a learning situation, watching her learn and watching her grow up around. I mean, in the end, when they sing together, it's really the first time when she puts the lipstick on. I mean, she's now coming out. She's now becoming who she should have been all along, probably.
Right.
And I think that's why. So, and I understand your feelings about that. That's, it's real. I mean, it's your comment. I am not a critic of these things. If I were a critic, I could say, I could tell you what I think is wrong. It's not a matter of what's wrong. I'm interested in what's right.
Right. Oh yeah, well, we're getting through this now anyway, because I was just wondering why everyone was so stoic. So we were kind of out in the thing, but that made it less.
I think they were also stoic,
less of a flowing thing, because you want to watch these things for the love of film and just to see the process, but you also want to be entertained, too. So sometimes it takes a little bit more for me to be entertained, but it doesn't mean that I wouldn't have enjoyed the process. But then it becomes something that you're analyzing and all like that. But when all the analyzing is done, I'd like to feel.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and also you got to remember,
a good book or a good film does make me feel.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And now that we've actually talked through some of this I'm actually feeling a little bit now. So that's good.
That's my job. That's my job.
Yes. So, but don't be offended.
You're making me work.
I tell you what I feel, and
good. No,
I own it. Whatever it is, I own it. So
that's all I can ask for. And also, just to answer your question about, why you may have felt they felt stoic, was also the fact that they're not sure who she is. She's a mystery. She comes down the mountain. She hasn't seen her in 14 years. Why are you here? What's going on? And getting her through the street, so I think there's also, I mean, the way the husband deals with her, he's not sure. He starts pouring the drinks, they're drinking together.
So they're just more reticent, not because they don't care, but they don't know if they can yet, I guess.
Yeah, they're not sure.
That would make sense.
Yeah. They're not
sure. All
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Jackie?
Man, Larry panicked there for a minute. Did you see him jump?
My secretary wasn't operating the controls over there. So I wonder if some of this is because being up in the mountains, I mean, in reality, those are the only surviving Albanians. When you think about it, they were controlled by the Ottoman Empire. The Greeks came in and did ethnic cleansing, genocide, and wiped out 2/3 of the country in World War I. And then was it the Croatians or the Serbs did a major cleansing, so to speak, again, in this last few decades. So really and truly, the only people that are probably left over of the old Albanian culture or whatever, or maybe the mountain people. That's why they call it the mountain of the dam.
Well, it's the mountain of the dam because you just can't get up there. I mean, it is so, it is treacherous territory, as we see. I mean, the cinematography is wonderful because we see how treacherous this where this is up there. And I think, yes, they are tribal. It's a tribal society that goes back centuries, and they are cut off. They were just cut off. So yes, in that aspect, you're right. They are true Albanians. And I think that whether in the war, I don't even think they went up there. I don't think anybody really tried to go up there. It was not territory they would have wanted, in the first place, and they certainly didn't come down. It's interesting to note that they, it was just an isolated society, just an isolated society. Anyway, thank you, Larry.
That was the point. Yeah.
Yeah. Rachel?
Well, I also found them to be very stoic, but I was interested in the sister because the sister was kissing that boy, and her sister goes, "You're, dad's gonna," and because she didn't want to marry what her dad wanted her to marry. So even though they are stoic, they had these rules. She was rebelling, the sister, and the other sister is like, "No, you got to do what's right." And I thought it was really horrifying when the father says, "You see this bullet? I'm going to give this to your husband." I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So not cool. I was
Yeah.
like horrified. I almost gasped out loud on that one. But, but I think certain religions also, sometimes they are very stoic. They don't want to show emotions. But I thought it was interesting, even though the sister came from the society, she rebelled against it. And
She ran away too.
and she ran away. She's like, "I'm done with it." And frankly, I don't blame her. It looked like a miserable life. But on the other side, the other sister, this is all she knew. She was adopted. She felt, she could have felt like not loved. And this was her chance. This is a tribe. This is like my gang, so she would do whatever it took to be part of that tribe. But then when everybody passed away, she's like, okay, who am I? Without the parents, even the adoptive parents, who am I as a person? And it's the journey she went through.
Yeah, well, you just pointed out an interesting element in while you're talking about the idea that Leela, the other sister, that she rebelled by running away. Hannah rebelled by becoming Mark. She wanted no part of it either, but she stayed and did it by assimilating into the men's society. That she's not going to marry because she doesn't want somebody walking around with a bullet for her. If anything, she's going to carry the bullet. But the idea is, again, that contrast is there were two ways out. There was Lila's way out by running away, and there was Hannah's way out by becoming Mark. So we see that schism. I mean, this is, we're seeing basically humanity and how humans deal with their situation. And that's one of the keys, I think, to this film is looking at humanity in this way, in a place so distant, so isolated. And what are my choices as a woman? Well, if I really want to be a woman, if I really want to be a free woman, I got to get out of here. Or if I don't want to be like these other women, I have to adapt to what the men are doing. So it's interesting. There's another dichotomy of this story that we're looking at. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, Barbara.
It started out slow for me, I will say, and nobody said anything. And I'm watching, I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't know what this is about. But just the idea that I can see something that I had no idea existed, that people lived like this and maybe still are living like this, and it's so foreign to me. It's just fascinating. And I think that mountain personality is everywhere. It's in the Appalachian Mountains, it's in the Irish Mountains. Those isolated mountain people are just different. But I had never heard of this man woman thing, or the virgin thing. Never heard of it. Never had any idea that what life in Albania was like. Never. That was just
It's
so
well, it's not.
interesting.
Yeah, it's not just Albania; it's other parts of that area. But it's and that's why I thought this film was important. I thought
So
it really
interesting.
sheds light on a whole different world within our world. So thank you, Barbara. I'm glad you did, Marilyn.
Yeah, I think you become stoic when you have to be. I think when you're living so in such an isolated society, unless you're strong, you're not going to survive. This is directed at Linda. So that you had read the book, how would you have cast character?
I'm sorry, what now?
Assuming that you had read the book, how would you have cast the main character? Is there a vision that the actress you could think of, or any type? Because I thought she was so well cast and pertaining to the type of individual that she was.
Yeah.
So I'm just interested in knowing who else she could have described.
Yeah, I couldn't only catch her just because you were breaking up, so I'm not really sure. Are
Sorry.
you asking my
Yeah.
I think she was asking
No.
how you would cast the character if you read it as a book. How you would cast that character?
Yeah, you're talking about the one that Hannah Mark
Yeah.
/ Mark.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I would have just had her when she started searching a little bit. I would have tried to have her a little bit more.
Shelly.
Yeah, and not just kind of just being there. But as far as people, I have no idea, And I tend to get bored if not too much is going on. That's a personal failing on that. And so that's why I like a little bit more going on there. But when I listen to what a lot of the things said, sometimes it has to be that way. And the stoicism and stuff didn't bother me that much when we were still in the mountains. I just thought there was too much of it when she got to her sister's house. I thought that they were more modern, and I thought we should have been seeing a little bit more emotion and stuff like that. And I wanted to see more of a where you could see the personal struggle she was going through. I didn't think they showed enough of that,
Okay.
to make me feel. But I don't think it was a bad movie or anything. It just
No,
it
I
just
understand.
didn't. No, huh? I thought it had a
understand.
lot of good stuff, and I thought it was fascinating with the whole concept and thing like that. I just wanted, if I could have just had a little bit more. So it was more of a thing is that what it needed to keep me really engaged
Yes.
than to
Okay.
beyond that. Does no one agree with me at all? No one else got?
Oh, I think people might agree with you. I think it's that's just a personal preference.
Yeah.
That's a subjectivity. That's your
Yeah,
subjectivity.
I gotta be honest, at times I was like, okay, I'm a little, it's going so slow.
Mhm.
And where is it going? And I hung in there. I always like to hang in because,
Mhm.
I watch a movie to the end normally.
Mm.
And so
That's a good
I was
idea.
glad I did. I was glad I did because,
Mhm.
it did go slow. It was a slower movie. And yeah, I agree with you, Linda. When she was in the modern society, the niece was, but why her sister rebelled, but she was kind of stoic too in the
Mhm.
modern world.
Right.
And I was wondering why, you have ran away, you're out of the mountains, but she was not, I didn't feel as much for the characters as I would have liked to.
Well,
I agree with that.
Well, you got to remember something. This is about Mark Hannah. It's their reaction to her. It's
Mhm.
not, it's not about them. It's, they may party all they want outside their own lives, but this is
Yeah.
about their reactions to
Yeah.
her. We got to
But it made-
remember this is her
didn't it-
lens.
Yeah. Made me feel like her only curiosity about the life, though, not that she was living as a man necessary, but just the sexual curiosity.
Mhm.
That was the only, and the problem with having to bind her breast. But I didn't feel the angst or the curiosity of a different life lived. Had she made the the right or wrong decision for a different life lived. And maybe I missed it. Maybe it was there and I just
Well,
didn't
no,
catch
I
it.
think that's a discovery. That's a discovery that happens. I mean, that's, you know,
Yeah.
that's going to be slow. That's not going to happen right away. I mean, it's you're watching the burgeoning of that, the opening of the door. You know, that's really the beginning. The end is really the beginning.
Right.
You know, which is what I always say. You know, it's film has a beginning, a middle, and an end, but not necessarily in that order. And this film,
Yeah.
you know, ends at a beginning.
Mhm.
And that's the way you have to look at it. As far as, you know, looking at film and saying slow, most foreign language film, when you look at it, is not very hurried, especially
Yeah.
the films I will choose for you. You know, you have to take your time. You have to watch.
Oh,
You have to
I
let
watched it
things
all.
develop.
I don't
Yeah.
quit. You know, I never do. I never quit.
Yeah.
And just to do. But and I
It's
thought
not
that they
about,
also, you know, could have shown her more with it, like I said, and not just the mechanics of sex, but maybe the whole concept of attraction, you know, and things like that would have
well,
been.
that's mysterious. That's mystery. That was mystery on both their parts.
Yeah.
There was curiosity and ambiguity with dealing in that situation. Okay. But we're gonna go, but don't worry, Marilyn, I got two more.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mel, go ahead.
I just want to point out, I want to thank you, Shelly, because it exposes us to a different culture. And I can see that many of the moviegoers that we're talking about don't understand that this humankind has developed all sorts of different cultures. You take the Eskimos, when they get old, they put the old lady, old man on a piece of ice and they put them out. That's can't have any more emotion than time. So the point I want to make is that this is the culture. I'm not sure it's all Albania. It may just be the mountain people, but it's very interesting, and it's interesting to see the reactions of our participants to this type of situation.
That's terrific. Yes, I think that's the most important aspect of what we do is to hear all these reactions. Thank you, Mel. Ed, are you there?
You're muted.
Yeah, he has to unmute himself. He may have given up on us. I don't know. Ed?
He put a comment in the chat.
Oh,
you
did
see,
he?
Shelly?
Yeah, I'm gonna go,
Yeah,
I'm looking, I just saw it, yeah. From Alice, the virgins showed little emotion. Yeah, okay, in fact, they seem to be a sad, depressed bunch of people. At times, they looked like workers waiting for the bus to hope for work every day. Shelly, were they mostly laborers with much opportunity? Well, they were sheep herders, they were farmers, you know, there was not much industry in this place, as you can imagine, and we didn't see it. We didn't see cars. We didn't see, we didn't see much of modern society. I mean, it was a tribal place, so they were probably just whatever they can farm and whatever animals they can kill to eat, essentially. From Al, yeah, that's so. What she also, in fact, they seem to be. They mostly, yeah. That's twice. Okay, yeah, that's basically what they are. They're an enclosed society that doesn't have communication. That's another thing. There's no communication with the outside world. They're that closed off, especially look at the weather in this place. By the way, I think now they're doing glamping there, if you're interested. Anyway, Sandra.
Hi.
Hi.
First of all, a comment. I was reading about sworn virgins, and they became a problem because often if a family didn't have any sons, they couldn't make heirs, and so it became a problem. And so that was it was very interesting. And the other thing, we were taken with the funeral of the. And nobody brought that up.
It was an unusual sight.
Yes,
Lots
yes,
of
it
emotion
was.
there.
Again, another tribal ritual. Yeah, I mean, it was just another tribal ritual, which we see so different And it opens our eyes to the idea that these differences still exist. I can't imagine, Sandra, that they're lining up to become sworn virgins.
No, I don't
in
think
that
so.
society.
And they actually became a problem because there was no males to inherit. These people can't produce
Yeah,
babies.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's what
Okay, anybody else before we wrap this up? Mel?
Yeah, that's what happened with the Shakers. They didn't indulge and they had no children.
Yeah,
Oh.
yep. Yeah, there are societies that necessarily go out of existence on their own. It's true. Okay, I think Marilyn, back to you. I think
Shots
we're
of her. I
ready to
noticed a lot
wrap
of
it up.
profile.
I'm sorry?
I said I noticed a lot of profile shots of her.
Yes.
She was quite beautiful, actually.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
was.
Alba Roacher is a very pretty woman. She's a sweet young girl. She's a very pretty woman.
And I noticed at the end she had an earring.
Yeah. Yeah, she was coming out.
She was coming
out. Yeah, coming into her own. Okay. I think this is a new record for us in terms of time. Well, it was a pleasure.
Your next movie?
Oh, yes, of course. See, I even forgot my next movie. Well, we go to the lighter side on my next movie. It's essentially a comedy, but again, you're going to question that as well, but it is a comedy. It is called Citizens of the World. And this is an interesting director because he acts in his own films. He's sort of a Woody Allenish, more of a Larry David, I would say, character in Italy. He's done about 6 films, and he stars in all of them. But this is about 3 retired best friends in Rome who conspire to leave Italy because they're concerned about the standards of living. They can't afford to live there anymore. And where, their meager pensions will stretch much further, where can they go? As they formulate an escape plan and they get closer to departure date, each man must reassess the value of life's simple pleasures and the reliable comforts of a modest life at home in Rome. Do they really want to leave? And we explore that, but it also touches on the world coming into Italy. It deals with the situation of migration. It deals with that as well as, and also the relationships these 3 have to each other and to others in the film. But it is, I think, a perky little film, which again, I think we'll have a good discussion on, hopefully, and I'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. So take care, stay well.
Thanks,
and
Shelley.
Good night. I'll look forward
night,
to seeing you.
everybody.
Yeah.
Night.
Good night. Thank you.